Okay, awesome. Welcome, everybody. This is what David and I are going to be calling Sales Ramble TV. Essentially, the whole goal behind this podcast, and David, feel free to jump in here, buddy, is basically to bridge the gap from pain to solution for business owners and professionals, right? Obviously, we're in the high ticket space, and I had originally thought about it being kind of like a gap between business owners and closers. And then David brought up the idea of, why do we stop at closers? Right? Why not include marketers and CSMs and stuff like that? So essentially the goal of this thing, what we've come to a conclusion here on, is just to be a value provider to both parties. Correct, David?
There we have it. One-stop shop. Why you stop at closers and business owners? No, we gotta pay some attention to the service providers, right? To the marketers, to the people fulfilling, because we are going to talk about that a little bit also, because I've been in the fulfillment space, and we gotta get some love, man. Not just the frontline dudes. So
of course,
that's it.
Awesome, man. So basically, this first podcast is going to be pretty short, pretty sweet. It's just going to be like kind of an intro to, who we are as people, how we came across the high ticket world, what our goals are in the world, personally, professionally, with this podcast. And I mean, more importantly, just to, get a good understanding of who David and I are as people, and, why we're doing this in the first place. So, yeah, man, I think we should kick it off and just kind of dive into, how and why we both got into the, high ticket sales world. Sound good?
Sounds good. Let's start with you, man, because your journey is super inspiring, and you kind of like, you're one of those people that got accelerated really quick by not, because when some people go into like a new space, we sort of like take pit stops, with the bus, you got to take every stop by every location and drop people off. You just screw the freaking stops and you went right to the destination. So let's talk about your journey, man. How did you get into it? What got you inspired to stick with it? And let's start from there.
Of course, man, definitely. I mean, just like anybody else in this world, I didn't start in high ticket sales, right? It's not like I graduated college and just jumped right into high ticket sales, right? I did start in sales in specific, right? So I worked in retail sales through Verizon Wireless. I don't know if they provide cell phone service over where you are, but it's a very big cell phone provider here in the United States. And I was just selling phones, right? And that part wasn't passionate, but the selling process was. And it was crazy, man. We're starting this thing in November. This month, last year, so literally 1 year ago, I ran into JD, who's both of our mentors, his public group. I found out what online sales was, what high ticket sales was, all of that idea of, I'm making a couple $100 commission per like package that I sell through Verizon. And I was like, wait a minute. I can go and make like $1,000 or a couple $1,000, depending on the size of package, right? Depending how you get into it. I was like, man, that's a great idea, right? But for me, I didn't know how to start, where to start, when to start, anything like that. And like I said, I ran into JD, and just like anybody, I had some skepticism, right? Healthy bit of skepticism is okay, right? Kind of understand, hey, can you actually make this kind of money? Right? And I'll be the first one to tell you that you can. But I mean, more importantly, I wanted to progress in sales, and I wanted to do it remotely because, and I actually just made a video about this, shameless plug there, but about money not being everything, right? And money's just a tool that we use to get what we want. And I had some pretty big goals, and I still do in my life. Like, I wanted to buy my first car, which I have done. I wanted to get a house, which I have done, right? I've got a lake house. But more importantly, the biggest driving factors for me that got me into high ticket sales, I would say, are my personal goals, which are retiring my dad, who's here. And I don't want to say retiring my mom because she's not like working full time, but just to make sure that she doesn't have to work again. So I guess retiring her as well. And yeah, man, that's pretty much what drives me to, like you said, David, not pump on the brakes, right? Because my dad's 54. He's going to be retiring soon, right? And I want to be able to get him there. And more importantly, man, we're only young once, right? And by that, I mean, you are your sharpest, you are your most motivated when you're young. So why would I be spending time not doing things? Because when I'm 40, I'm not going to want to do the things that I want to do now, right?
Right. there's sort of like a shift in priorities, right?
Mhm.
So like walk us through, because you shifted from Verizon sales to remote high ticket. Walk
Yeah.
us through like that journey of from the first month you actually started to where you are now, having the house, having the car, having like the materialistic things that you wished for before you even got started.
Yeah, definitely, man. So I took a leap, right? I'm not going to be a hypocrite and I'm not going to get on these sales calls and tell people to take a leap when I don't take a leap, right? So I took a leap. And by that, I mean, I quit my Verizon job with like $3,000 in my bank account. I had like 2 to 3 months worth of expenses to get something done. Wasn't the smartest strategy, nor do I advocate for that, but I thrive with my back against the wall. So essentially, I did that on purpose, and JD motivated me to do it because I had money to pay bills, right? And I mean, I got on an offer and I learned the sales process. And I mean, I struggle talking about numbers because I'm a very humble man, but I was making 10K like in my second month in online sales, right? And I was making 6K at Verizon. So I went from 6K to 10K and I was like, whoa, hang on a second, right? Like what's going on
Pull
here?
up.
And then oh shoot, hang on, sorry. Okay. And then yeah, man, you do it a few times and you realize that it's not that special, right? And I don't want to take anybody's goals down. I know a lot of people want to make 10K, and I'm not trying to sell people short here, but you make 10K like 5 times and you're like, okay, like what's next? Right. And you speak about my journey all the way through, right? So I started as a setter for 4 months. I got really good at that. I made, almost 12K in my best month there. I've been a closer for 6 months. I've made 10K almost every single month that I've been a closer. But more importantly, man, I practice what I preach, right? And that is, I just left my role on my past offer, right? For reasons that will go, unannounced. But more importantly, the biggest reason was, and I sent this voice message to you, David, is I was comfortable, right? I was comfortable. I was complacent. I was comfortable in my daily routine and selling what I was selling. And I heard JD, right? I heard JD, you got to be uncomfortable, take the uncomfortable action. So I decided to put myself in an uncomfortable position and take that leap again. I jumped off ship onto another ship, and I'm onboarding a new offer. And yeah, man, I really see the potential to hit that next level here, right? So I went from 9 to 5 to setter to closer to financially free and independent, right? To now I want to hit that next level of like 20K plus a month, right? And there's people doing it on this offer, so I know it's possible. And we're the same, David, where I see somebody doing it and I'm like, okay, that means I can do 30, right? Because I'm going to come in better than you. So, right, like if you're doing 25 consistently, then I can do 30 consistently.
Your schedule is from 9 to 5. I do 6 to freaking 12, right?
Exactly. Right, man. But I would say, man, the biggest thing for me that has led to my success, if you call it success, whatever you want to call it, would be,
I'd call it success, dude.
I don't want to use the same word that I used in my interview with JD, but obsession, right? I actually fundamentally, down to its core, love this process, and I'm not doing it just for money. I'm not doing it just for goals. I actually love sales and I want to be the best at it. And that helps me to continuously improve. Right, man. But hey, enough about me, man. I've been talking for 13 minutes. I can do this all day. Why don't you tell us your story, man?
Man, it's been a long journey, but I've enjoyed every single part of it. It's thank you for sharing, by the way, because I see a lot of me in you. That's probably how we met and came so good along. But I really started fresh out of high school. I was like seeing my friends getting jobs, people studying, and whenever I would meet with my friends again, they'd say everyone would use the same word. I feel miserable. So some of my guys went to the military. Every time I'd ask them, like a week now and 4 weeks later, yeah, we're only walking. The next 4 weeks, yeah, we're only, walking with our backpacks and everything. 8 weeks go by. Yeah, we're only walking. I'm miserable. I don't want to be here. Right. So it's like shit. Like all of these traditional paths of what the world or society or parents like encourage us to become, just makes at least people in my circle miserable. So like, shit, let's take a step back and figure something out. And one route that made me the most uncomfortable was starting a business. It's like, shit, let's start a business. That was just the idea. I had no experience, no plan. I didn't even know what planning your money even was, or managing your finance or money even was, or paying taxes or bookkeeping. It was the first time I heard what bookkeeping was. So I saw this, $1,000 course, right? And I only had that in my bank right there. I was like, my parents ain't gonna know. I invested in it and I just got started. Luckily though, I made back my money. I had 3 clients running with it. And as I were running the business, I was like, shit, I don't enjoy doing the marketing stuff because it was a marketing agency. So it's like, what do I enjoy? There's so many different aspects of it, and it was sales. I didn't know sales were closing and setting back then. I was like, all right, so everything is sales because I paid for my own leads. I spoke to everyone. I brought them through my own process. I had no idea. So I was like, all right, so let's just drop this thing. I had a business partner at the time. I was like, hey, you take care of these clients for me. I'm going to learn sales. So from that point, I was like, all right, so SaaS gig, I had like 7 different offers I could take. SaaS gig looked the best, and I just went with it. And just like you, I went from, setting to, closing low ticket to closing higher tickets. My setting, I'm very related to you. Once you're a young beast, you're just going for it. You're working 15, 16-hour days, not caring about anything. And all you do is eat, sleep, and set calls. That's it. That was my routine. So in my second month of setting, and that was like the breaker for me to really pass through all of the other sales reps at that company. I broke the amount of sets, the amount of sets per day, being most efficient at it, doing the most volume, like everything. I broke freaking everything. And in that second month, I was invited to the headquarters, buying the plane ticket, hotel, accommodation, everything. I was invited to work on their second company, the founder's second company, which was another marketing agency. So I did setting for both. And as I climbed up the ladder, I did, closing $100, $500 to $1,500 to $12,000. And that was over the course of like a year. So there's a lot of learning lessons. And just like you're sharing the most important thing to, I guess, if you can call it success, has been my Swedish accent, dude, visualization. Because once you come from like a worker background, you really don't know how to manage your money. You don't know like really anything about it. So with the coach and mentor I had at the time, he taught me, the book Think and Grow Rich. And I did every single one of them. I was super obsessed. I wrote down my goals, my reason, my objective, everything. Like that word. And I would sit there and every single morning I'd write down whatever I wanted to achieve. So I went from never having a job to running a business to being a sales rep, going from 0 to 5K in 5 months. And that was my goal. And I wrote it down and it happened. So that's my story, man. I mean, it's so sick. It's so sick.
I love
I'm
it.
gassed.
I love it, man. I love it. No, we've got very similar stories, right? And I think that's one reason. And I guess I can really bridge us into our next topic here would be, how we really clicked as individuals and why we decided to start this thing in the first place. And honestly, man, if we can help people, I don't want to say like think like us or be like us, right? But if there are people that can have the same level of obsession and drive and motivation that people like you and I have, right? There can be a ton of more successful people out there. And this isn't selling anybody short, because there's people that make, in a month what I did in the last 7 months, right? Absolutely. Yeah. And nor am I trying to gas us up, but like, as you know, bro, you've sold packages, really like 10% of people succeed, right? And that's because a lot of people aren't willing to put in the work and the effort and the requirement. And you said something there, bro, that really, really shined through to me personally. And it really goes down to being like the hardest worker in the room, right? Because if you want things you've never had, you got to do things you've never done, right?
Ooh, you woke up and chose poetry.
It's a quote that I read the other day, man. And there's one more thing I wanted to talk about real quick before we talk about more why you and I clicked, and goes back to the visualization, getting stuff on paper, right? There's an analogy that I like to use, and it goes to playing darts, right? Have you ever played darts before, David?
You mean those thrown at
Yeah.
the wall? Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a target, right? You throw the dart at the target, right? You're not just throwing darts at nothing, right? So people, I feel like, and I talk to a lot of salespeople, and they don't have goals per se, other than 10K a month. Okay, but why the fuck do you want to make 10K a month, right? It's like
it's a cool number.
Yeah, right. They just have these basic that everybody else wants. They don't have specific goals to them, right? I'm sure 5K a month was, or 5K was something that you had something behind, right? There was something behind that was driving that. Like me, mine was 10K, yes, but it was because I wanted to be a six-figure earner so I could start doing some of the things that I've done now, right? But hang on real quick, I'm back to the Sales Ramble TV, right? That's why we call it that. I'm rambling on here, but back to the whole point of this minute-long spiel here. If there's no target, what are you throwing at, right? You're just throwing darts to throw darts, right? We got to have a target. Or here's another analogy for you, right? There's a mountain that everybody's trying to climb, right? The peak is your goal, right? But if there's no goal, there's no mountain, there's nothing to climb, right? And there's just a ton of people that I talk to that don't have clearly defined goals. And that, in my opinion, and chime in here, buddy, that's really holding people back.
Yeah. It was a moment of clarity for me when I was at the end of my first gig, because they started to hire people, and nothing against people or holding any drama or beef, but it's like the truth of how it actually played out. They started to hire people that showed up and said, yeah, I'm just looking to show up and do whatever I can, right? But like, why are you doing whatever you can? Like, what is that connected to? Like, are you showing up to do 3 hours of what? Like, is 8 sets just 8 sets for you, or is 8 sets, a decision maker for you to retire at 35 instead of 55, right? And having that consistency and that mindset is like, oh shit, I only need 8 sets per day. That suddenly becomes, instead of being this Mount Everest, you're looking at this tiny mountain you need to climb every single day.
I totally agree, man. I totally agree, right? I feel like we should have a Mount Everest, but there should be, I don't want to call them pit stops, but there's steps on a ladder, right?
Right.
You got to climb the ladder piece by piece. You don't just slide up the ladder to the very last peg, right? And every one of those points, every one of those pegs on the ladder are smaller than the top, but they're significant, right? Like when you hit 10K, okay, awesome. Then there's like 12K, 15K, 20K, right? Or if you don't want to do income, if you want to do time or whatever it may be, right? I love that analogy there, man. So yeah, I mean, for me, David, the first time I knew that I wanted to be a part of your life, whether it be business partners or friends or colleagues or family or whatever you want to call it, man, just more than the average, networking connection. It's that very first call that we had, right? And this is bridging into our next topic, which is how we really clicked as individuals. A lot of people from UCM, or a lot of people in the online sales world, they see my numbers and they see my interviews with JD and they book a call to try and learn from me. You jumped on a call and taught me, right? And by that, I was like, yeah, man. So I was like, what do you want to talk about today?
I haven't heard this before.
I kind of framed it around wanting to provide you value. And you were like, nah, dude, like, I forget how you put it. And it was in a professional way, but you're like, I'm coming for you as the top student, right? Like, I forget exactly how you put it, but like within the first 5 minutes, I was like, nah, I like this kid, right? And not kid, like in terms of that, but like I think we connected and you were 19 at the time, right? And I was like, man,
I was 20.
there you go, 20, right?
Yeah,
And I
20.
was 24, right? So I was like, I really like this guy, man. Like I see a lot of myself in you because I've got the exact same mentality. It's like, no, no, no. I'm not here for you to teach me anything, right? I'm here to learn what you did so I can do that and not only learn from it, but know how to excel past you, right? And I
I don't
loved
even
that, man.
remember that,
I
but
loved it.
that
Within
sounds like
5
me.
minutes, I was like, this is the guy. I want to be with this guy. This is the guy I want to go to battle with, right? But yeah, man, I'll let you take over from there. But that for me, man, was like I was like, boom. It was like in the old cartoons with the light bulb that bing. I was like, nah, this is the one, man.
Full transparency, man. Like I don't even remember that, but all I remember is that we had a chat, but I didn't see it from that perspective. But I remember you were at the court wash, I think.
Yeah.
But like, shit, man, I didn't even think of it like that. But that sounds like me. It's how everyone has described me as. Even the references that I've had is just like, this guy is coming for his spot kind of energy, right?
Exactly.
So, man, I just feel touched right now. I just feel touched. It was because I don't actually think that I decided at that actually call that I was like, all right, so this guy is going to be way more than just a connection. It was just like a chat, and then the more we just connected, I was like, oh shit, this guy is the white version of me, but older, right? And then we just started connecting way more and more and more, and that led into because I see both of us as people that rather do than think.
Mhm.
And that's what's almost like brings us together, because once we got a plan, next 24 48 hours we just get it done. And yes, because I haven't met someone as similar as I am as you are, if that makes sense.
No,
That
absolutely.
confused me a little bit.
No, definitely, man. And I agree. And that's what I meant by for me, it was more mentality. And I don't know if you were purposely doing it as more of subconsciously, because that's just who you are as a person. Right. But I definitely felt those vibes and I felt that energy. And it was like, okay, this guy is as close to me as you can get without cloning me. Right. Like you said, this is my younger Asian twin. Right. Because we do a lot of stuff similar. We carry ourselves very similar. I mean, we're both tall and skinny, right? I mean, if you want to get down to the physical attributes as well. I mean, there's a lot of things that we do similar, man. And yeah, it was I knew from that first call personally, and I remember vividly what really stood out to me the most.
If you're still watching, you're a real one. And the video actually got too long, but consider subscribing as you wait for part 2 to find out how Chance and I met and the rest of the story.